Hello, you fools. Welcome back to another Formula Fools podcast. I'm David, your guide through the twists and turns. And with me is Skin, the man who runs all of the Formula Fools social media calendar posting stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So it's Skin's fault that we're late and we've not posted anything in like 5 weeks.
I see what you've done there.
Yeah, you see what I've done? I've just stitched you up.
Just a blatant lie to throw me under the bus.
Yes, exactly.
I think, but yeah, no, we both suck, essentially. Yeah, we haven't recorded in a long time. We apologise profusely, but we're back.
I just want to jump in before the podcast gets started and let you know that we did record after the Belgian Grand Prix. It just never actually got edited and released. So this podcast is going to be split up into two sections. The first section will be what we recorded after the Belgian Grand Prix, which would have been episode 19. And then the second part is going to be after the Dutch Grand Prix, which will be episode 20. So this is episode 19 and 20 merged into one for you. Anyway, let's get to the episode. Hello, you fools. Welcome back to another Formula Fools podcast. I'm David, your guide through the twists and turns. And with me is Skin, a man who loves to doubt Disco when he says Carlos Sainz didn't text him to confirm that he's going to Williams, baby. I don't need this shirt anymore. Woo! This is your celebration. Go this. It's just beautiful. I'm so excited.
I respectfully disagree. That was not beautiful.
Okay, so as you might know, Carlos Sainz just signed. Carlos signed for Williams this morning.
Nice.
What do you reckon, Skin?
About the joke?
No, about Carlos actually signing for Williams.
Yeah, your execution could use some work.
But I was just so excited. I woke up and genuinely jumped out of bed this morning.
Oh, God. Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, that's exciting news, particularly for Williams.
And for Carlos.
Yeah. Sure.
Less so, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I sort of had to scroll through some of those posts about it. A lot of people are a bit sad for old Carlos. Ended up with probably not the best team. Surely Williams have a hope of
this is the thing,
turning around at some point. They can't be shit forever.
No, they can't. They absolutely can't. And Carlos and his dad are very smart people. They've got links to Audi, so so Audi was definitely an option. But they've obviously seen something in Williams where they believe in what we're doing. They believe in maybe not the next year project, but the 2026 project certainly, which is why it says 2025 onwards. James Vowles says certainly 25, 26 and onwards. So I would imagine it's a 2-year deal with the option to extend if Williams do well in 26. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope it goes well. I like Carlos.
Mate, what do you mean? I've already called it. Williams, 2026 Constructors Champions. Carlos or Alex, don't care. They're both amazing. 2026 Drivers World Champion.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Are Williams going to end up with that same predicament that we spoke about last week with where McLaren sort of had this mess of having two good drivers and so many other teams have done it over the years? Are they going to have two similarly good drivers?
Yeah.
Nice.
Probably. I think it's a case of if we can get to the front of the grid, we'll deal with that when we get there. Everyone rates Alex very highly and says how good of a driver he is. He's not really had the car to be able to show that yet. I know what people are going to say. Oh, he raced in the Red Bull, blah, blah, blah. But the Red Bull that season was inconsistent. Even Max struggled from race to race to get consistency out of it. So, yeah, look, these two are both very good drivers. They could, if we do start challenging for podiums, potentially race wins, we could have a very similar predicament to McLaren last week. But we'll deal with that when we get to it. I don't want to say, but we're going to, because my thing last week was, we can fix it. We can do it differently. Like, no, it could be an issue and it's something we'll just have to see as and when we get to the front.
Okay.
We need to move on to Belgium. The Belgium Grand Prix was this weekend, my favorite track. So obviously I didn't watch it live because I'm an idiot and I fell asleep. So let's quickly get into Ryan's hot lap recap.
Welcome back, race fans, to another thrilling edition of the Hot Lap Recap. Now, this time we are diving into the heart-pounding action from the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps. And let me tell you, this race had it all again. Drama, excitement, and a shocking twist that left everyone stunned. Yes, Carlos Sainz is going to Williams, and Perez has somehow managed to stay at Red Bull for the rest of this season, for now at least anyway. But that wasn't even the shocking twist. Anyway, first, let's talk about the winner, George Russell, in his Mercedes. Now, you may remember a few races back, I said old GR was a bit of a lucky driver, right place, right time. Well, let's just say for this race, the wait is over. The race, though, George pulled off an incredible feat by making this really bold one-stop strategy work, holding off teammate Lewis Hamilton in the closing laps to take the checkered flag. I don't know where they take it, but he took it and then later gave it to Lewis. Anyway, it was a masterful display of tyre management and defensive driving, and it looked like Russell had secured his third career victory. But this is the kicker. In a pretty shocking turn of schoolboy era events, Russell was stripped of his win 2.5 hours after the race. Now, why is that? Well, it turns out that his car was found to be about an average household cat underweight during post-race scrutineering. 1.5 kilograms. Mercedes admitted to a genuine error of not finding a cat to sit on the scales in time, and the stewards had no choice but to disqualify Russell from the race. Now, that meant that Hamilton, who'd been chasing down Russell in those final laps, was then promoted to the top step of the podium, claiming his 105th career victory. So it's a bit of a bittersweet moment, isn't it, for Mercedes, as they lose out on a 1-2 finish, but still come away with the win. And Oscar Piastri, driving for McLaren, of course, was bumped up then to second place, while Ferrari's Charles Leclerc rounded out the podium in third. Red Bull's Max Verstappen, who had been expected to charge through the field from 11th on the grid, had to settle for 4th place, but still managed, importantly, to stay ahead of closest rival Lando Norris. But the race itself was this thrilling affair with plenty of action going on throughout the field. I mean, Hamilton took the lead early on from Leclerc on that second lap and looked set for victory, but Russell's bold call on that strategy and his impressive tyre whispering, as his engineers said, threw a spanner in the works. And Piastri and Leclerc had their own battle for that final podium spot, with the McLaren driver pulling off a stunning overtake around the outside of Les Combes. It was beautiful. And Leclerc had to fend off then Verstappen and Lando Norris in the closing laps, managing to hold on to third place. Now, looking further down the field, there were really genuinely impressive drives from Fernando Alonso, who also made that one-stop strategy work to beat Alpine's Esteban Ocon, and Daniel Ricciardo, who then managed to claim the final point after Russell's disqualification. But of course, the talking point of the day will undoubtedly be Russell's disqualification and the heartbreak it brings for the young British driver. I mean, it's an absolute clanger from Mercedes, isn't it? And it is really just this harsh reminder of how unforgiving Formula One can be and how the smallest of margins can make all the difference. So Max Verstappen managed to extend his lead to 277 points from Lando Norris on 199. So there you have it, folks. Whew. A race that will go down in the history books for all the right and the wrong reasons. Congratulations to Lewis Hamilton on his 105th career victory. And of course, commiserations to George Russell for a race that could have been his way in to the championship. Until next time, fools, keep your engines revved and keep your scales set 1.5 kilograms heavier than what they should be, okay, just in case. See you after the summer break, folks, at the next Hot Lap Recap.
What do you reckon, Skin? What have you got for me?
Well, firstly, I like the track. I can see what you mean. Why that's your favourite
it's beautiful
track. Yeah, well, there's something about what's that camera angle that goes down the hill and around the corner? What is that corner?
Oh, El Rouge.
I don't know.
Where it's like the fast, like it's kind of like a you've got the straight line, and then you've kind of got a little bit of a left, and then right, left up the hill.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, El Rouge. Yeah. El Rouge up
that's
into
good
Radion.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an amazing corner. Amazing corner. That's this little bit. Oh fuck, we're still in the chock setup. It's not behind me anymore. It's down there somewhere.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it's amazing.
Okay. So yeah, I see why you like the track. That was really nice. And I don't know, you say it was a boring race, but it was kind of, I liked how it was like really tightly packed the whole time. Like,
yeah, that was good.
Even though not that much actually did happen until people started pitting and strategies changed and things like that. But like you sort of felt a bit on edge, like something could happen any moment because everyone's only like half a second apart sort of thing. Like,
that definitely was the best bit, but it kind of felt like anything could happen, but equally everyone knows what is going to happen, as in the undercut is the most powerful thing. So someone is going to try and undercut someone, and then the person that is going to get undercut is then just going to try and go long for a few more laps, which is what Lando did, and it didn't work. But yeah, in terms of the closeness, this was the closest non-safety car finish between the top three since 2016 at 1.173 seconds from first to third.
wow.
Yeah. So that's, 8 years?
Yep.
Where we've not had a finish like that, where it's been that close. And even watching them cross the line, like Oscar was very close to the back of Lewis.
Yeah.
Just a shame that George then got disqualified for having an illegal car.
That was a shame. That sucks. That's obviously heartbreaking for George.
Yeah.
And yeah, just a bizarre mistake. But all of that aside, the one-stop strategy was sick.
Mate.
I really loved watching that. And because I watch these F1 races and I think that all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the commentators will sort of tease it a little bit like, oh, he's going to go long. Maybe they're going to do a one-stopper. And no one does it.
No one
it
ever
never
does
happens.
it.
And I'm
Yeah.
always sitting there like, if you just do one less pit stop, you're going to save 20 seconds. Like, surely 20 seconds is useful in a lot of scenarios, and no one ends up doing it. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, like, well, maybe I'm just a fucking idiot who knows nothing about Formula One and I'm missing something. Like, obviously, there's some reason they're not doing it. And then someone's finally done it, and it worked beautifully, and he won the race. And
Well,
it's like,
yeah.
oh, look,
But this is
what's
the thing.
the deal?
It literally did work beautifully because he won it by half a second. If there was another lap or 2 laps, he probably would have lost the race. But like, that's the point, is that it was so finite. And this is why they don't do it. It's because from a strategic point of view, way too big of a variable risk. Like if he locked up one tire on that in the last 5 laps and gone wide, he's lost the race. And like, that's the reason they don't do it, is because that variable of like the uncertainty of what if you lock up tire, what if there's a yellow flag and you've got a lift and then your tires don't keep the temperature and they drop all of a sudden. Like, there's so many things that could go wrong with it. George was just so, and he's spoken about it after the race before, obviously finding out he was disqualified. He just said every stint that he did, the tires, when they told him to pit, the tires still felt like he could push. And I think like when George said, I'm staying out, like I want to do one stopper, I'm sat there going, there's no fucking way this is working. I'm like, either they're going to pop or they're going to drop off so much in the last 10 laps that Lewis is just going to annihilate him and he won't even finish on the podium. He said after the race, like even after his first stint, he went in the pits and was like, I could have done a fastest lap on them tires. Like they were amazing. And Oscar, looking back at it now, Oscar came, was he in P2 and then Lewis pitted and then he sets the fastest lap the next lap after Lewis pitted. And he was on like 15 lap old tires or something. Like he was on fairly old tires at that point. And he still went to set a fastest lap. So I think that is testament to what George was saying, is that the tires were not degrading as much as people thought. And so that's why he felt confident in that last stint. And the team, respect to the team, they backed him to the hills. And that was definitely the right call.
Yeah.
Like having a driver that can do that and that can make that call and go, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna do one stop. Huge.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. I definitely expected decisions like that to come from the team to the driver, not the other way around.
Yeah.
That was surprising.
Yeah. Sometimes you just get this sometimes, usually not on such a clear cut, like it's dry and sunny. Like usually in them circumstances, the simulations are you back them all the way. But normally it's like, changing conditions and things like that, where the driver he's got the feedback of the car underneath him. But yeah, they were fantastic. And I think Mercedes have always been good at this. When Lewis was in his dominant era, he wouldn't lead the strategy all the time, but he would definitely make calls like this, where he would say, now we need to come in earlier, we need to stay out longer or whatever, and end up winning races that could have been a loss had they not changed the strategy on the fly. So yeah, huge respect to Mercedes for that.
Okay, awesome.
The Dutch Grand Prix was it's a different track and usually is won by one person. And this week we had a different Dutch Grand Prix.
Sorry. Is it usually won by one person because of the track or because usually that one person wins most tracks?
Yeah, because that one person usually wins most tracks.
Okay.
And it's also like fairly new to the calendar. It's only a few years old. So its first race was the year Max started dominating. And
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Did it used to be in the calendar as well? Didn't it make a comeback in like 2021?
Yeah. So it was a comeback. So I think the last time it raced was in like the 60s or something. I think. Yeah, I think Niki Lauda was the last person to win a Zandvoort before Max Verstappen. So there was like a huge break, maybe 70s, maybe either late 60s or early 70s or something like that. So it's been a very long time that it was off of the grid. But yeah,
that is a long break.
Yeah,
that's like not a few years. That's a few decades.
That's a fair few decades. Yeah, but yeah. So it's usually it also had some modifications. The banked corners and things like that weren't as banked as what they are now. So they made them a bit more banked and also a bit safer. And things like that. They added a few more like fan access zones and a bit more like that for the fans to get around.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the corners because I wasn't sure if I was just going insane watching the race or if I'd missed something. Like the corners are way more banked than most tracks, right?
Yeah.
What is that all about? Why would they do that?
The great thing about a banked corner is it means that there's two racing lines. You can either take the inside line or the outside line. So during the race, I think on lap 1, Oscar and George were having a little battle, and I think Oscar tried to go down the inside to see if there was more grip there. And you can go down the inside or go around the outside and make both overtaking moves possible, or just be faster and have the different routes there.
Right. Is one of the two lines meant to be faster in theory, or what?
It depends on track temp. It depends on your tyre wear. It depends on the weight of the car. I think the outside line is the preferred line because it sets you up better for the next corner. But in a race situation when you're battling with someone, there's probably not one over the other that's gonna be like the definitive. But I think in a quali session, most people are going to go for that higher line. Right. But severe banked corners like that, no, we don't see them on most tracks. Monza this weekend, though, famously has the old last corner, which I can't remember what it's called. It's got a very famous name. They always do pieces on it, and you'll see it from helicopter shots. And it is probably 4 times the size of the bankings at Zandvoort. It's like genuinely, you stand at the bottom of it and you have to look up to see the top of it. It is insane. I'll get a photo.
What the heck?
Yeah.
For what reason?
They used to race on that in the in like the 50s and 60s and stuff, like in the early days of F1.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Unbelievable.
Okay.
Just because it would Monza is they call it the Temple of Speed. We'll get onto Monza in a little bit, but they call it the Temple of Speed. And this was one of the reasons why, because you would slingshot off of this corner and just have ridiculous speed going down the main straight.
Right. Okay. Cool.
I mean, the last corner is still ridiculously fast at Monza, but not as fast as what it would be on that. But also modern F1 cars probably wouldn't go around this like that severe banking like they would at Zandvoort, which is why they changed it to Zandvoort, because they wanted to have a point of difference and they wanted to have something that was kind of retro but also worked with modern cars and worked well.
Right. But that corner at Monza is still like that today?
Still like that, but not used. They don't use it.
They don't use it?
No.
Okay. So in the current F1 calendar, it's only Zandvoort with
Zandvoort, okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. We're gonna move on to a little hot lap recap, and then we'll come back to the Zandvoort Dutch Netherlands. What do we call it? What's its official name? The Dutch Grand Prix. We'll come back to this after Ryan's Hot Lap Recap.
Welcome to the Hot Lap Recap, folks, where I, Ryan, break down all the action from this most beautiful, undulating, twisting and turning behemoth of a circuit, the Dutch Grand Prix. Oh, yes. Right, come on, let's dive in, shall we? Lando Norris took a dominant victory, his first since Miami in May, and ended Max Verstappen's run of Dutch GP wins. Yes, he did. Norris, he did have a poor start, didn't he? He gave up the lead to Verstappen, but he quickly regained his composure and retook the lead on lap 18. Norris's pace was unmatched, and he pulled away at about half a second a lap. That is how much of an advantage he had. And Verstappen's defence, well, half-hearted is the best way that I can describe it, with Max complaining throughout the race that his car just couldn't keep up. And Norris swept into the lead down the inside line at the first corner. Now, once in front, Norris was just in total control, and he crossed the line at the end of the race 22.8 seconds ahead of Verstappen for one of the most dominant wins of the season. He even set the fastest lap on the final lap as well, taking it away from Mercedes' Lewis Hamilton by just 0.067 seconds. And Charles Leclerc took the final podium position too, fending off the McLaren of Oscar Piastri for those final 27 laps he held on. And Leclerc was surprised as well by his podium finish, saying, yeah, very surprised. I'm not often very happy with a P3, but with today's race, we can be extremely happy with the job we have done on a difficult weekend for the team. And it's also worth noting as well that Sergio Perez, remember him, he actually managed to finish closer to the front than the back of the grid for the first time in what feels like forever. And unfortunately for Haas, this really wasn't a very good weekend, was it? They finished 11th, just shy of one of those ever-important World Championship points. And the word on the street is that they're actually financially struggling. So I can imagine just how much they would have treasured a point or two at the team HQ. The end positions then saw Verstappen's championship lead cut to 70 points with only 9 races to go. And Norris's win was a welcome tonic for a driver and a team who have faced criticism for letting opportunities slip by. McLaren are now just 30 points behind Red Bull in the constructors' chase. Can Norris and McLaren continue their momentum? Well, we'll find out next time on Formula Fools. You'll just have to tune in. That's it. That's the hot lap recap for the Dutch Grand Prix. I'm Ryan, and I'll catch you next time for some more high-speed action from Monza. Yes, Italy. Back to you in the studio, Fools.
Okay, on to Norris. What do you reckon, Skin? Your driver, you're one of your boys.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Chose McLaren, and now they're good.
Now they're dominating.
Very nice.
They're probably going to win the Constructors' Championship this year.
You reckon?
Yeah, we've got, like 6? No, we've got more. This was 16th race, I think. So we've got 7 or 8 races left of the year.
Yep. And they seem to be getting the most points every weekend.
Very close to Red Bull. They took a big chunk out of Red Bull this weekend.
Mm.
And they're I think they're within 35 points of Red Bull now.
Yeah.
Red Bull on 434 and McLaren on 404. Okay. So they are literally 30 points off of Red Bull.
All right.
So I reckon McLaren have got it.
So they're a good chance. All right.
Very good chance. Yeah.
Well, that was a wonderful year to start following McLaren.
Go Skip.
I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lando looked quite fast.
Yeah.
20 seconds faster than the next fastest, I guess. Yeah.
He absolutely smashed it. Obviously, he had a shocking start again. He keeps having these really bad starts, but he said in an interview after the race, he was like, oh, who needs a good start when you can, it's how you finish. Who needs a good start when you're going to race like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and he was very, not arrogant about it, but he was very I think he was laughing at himself a little bit from how he started, but then kind of being I got the win in the end. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, for sure. No, it was, I guess that makes sense. It's probably more about what order you finish in than what order you start in, isn't it? That's the whole point of a race.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was crazy just how much quicker he was than Max. And also crazy how much quicker he was than Oscar. Did they have different setups or?
They'll have slightly different setups and things. I'm not sure on technically from the car, but the way they set it up in the practices and stuff, they'll set the car up differently based on their own feel. But Lando's always kind of enjoyed Zandvoort. He's always done well here. Okay. So it didn't surprise me that he was so much better than Oscar. And also he's got more experience in the team, more experience in F1. He's a bit more of a rounded driver than Oscar is. And I said this earlier on in the season, Oscar's a phenomenal driver, but he's got learning to do because there's little things that he does that is just because it's his second year in F1. And there's things that Lando's doing now that he's starting to pick up on, he's starting to grow into. And that's just because he's 5th year in F1 now.
Okay.
It's just time under your belt.
Okay. All right. But yeah, he was rapid. It was, I don't know, it's just so weird to see that was Red Bull at the start of the year.
Yeah. First race we were they're going to win every race by 20 fucking seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
And McLaren win by 20 seconds.
Yeah. I saw a graph, someone posted a graph this weekend of the gaps between first and second place. And at the start of the year, it's 20 odd seconds for Max. And then it's slowly declining down to 13, 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So then now it's just yoink straight back up a little.
It's crazy.
It's just been the strangest shift.
Yeah. It's also
I don't understand what it is. What are Red Bull doing so poorly? Like, have they just forgotten how to make a good car or something? Like, I would have thought you'd have it pretty down pat by now.
Adrian Newey's checked out, hasn't he? Because they're just not developing. They just stood still, and McLaren are just fucking going past it.
Yeah, it seems.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I don't even know. They've got less wind tunnel time
Okay.
because they won the championship last year, and McLaren finished like 4th or something. So they've got less wind tunnel time because of that. They finished 5th, McLaren. So McLaren will have a fair amount more
Okay.
wind tunnel time to develop the car. But I've never, not for a very long time. Red Bull in 2009 started off really poorly especially against the Brawn, and then through the season developed rapidly and were winning most races towards the end of the season. Just missed out on winning the championship to Brawn, but that was just because they had a great start to the season. Could happen with Lando this year. Like Max could clinch it still, but it's been since 2009 since we've seen a team actually develop a car this quickly and this well throughout one season. Like, we never usually see this.
Yeah, right.
So it's unbelievable.
It's cool to see.
Yeah. Also, Lando's win being more than 10 seconds is the first time anyone other than Max has won by more than 10 seconds since 2021. Australia. It was like the 3rd race of the season.
Really?
Yeah. No one else has won by such a margin apart from Max Verstappen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unbelievable. And then he goes and doubles it.
That is wild. Did you see that after the race? When Leclerc and Max were sitting there, and Leclerc asked him, like, how far behind were you? And he's like, 22 seconds or something. And they're both just like,
yeah. I saw that. I didn't see the clip first. I saw the photos, and it was just close up of Leclerc's face. Like, I was like, oh, he's in trouble. Monza is this weekend. As I've already said in the pod, it's the Temple of Speed, one of the fastest tracks on the calendar. We've had some amazing races here, some amazing crashes here, and Williams go well here. So I'm very excited for that.
Yep.
So keep an eye out for Williams. They're gonna be fairly racy, especially with the upgrades that they did bring last. We saw Williams upgrades were working last week. We performed well.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm backing them.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
I
say
just like the term fairly racy.
yeah, that's good. We're looking fairly racy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a race. They'll definitely be racing.
Yeah, but did you kind of see how like Logan Sargent and Alex usually crash? So that's like not racy.
That's not racy.
Yeah, because the cars are like in the wall.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The second thing to look out for is Monza usually, or not usually, but sometimes will throw up a random winner. So, for example, Gasly got his first ever race win a few years back in the Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri, whatever the fuck you want to call that team, RB. He got his first ever race win at Monza. Kind of came out of nowhere. Like, okay, it was because of a crash with Lewis and Max, but it's because like this is what Monza throws up. It throws up these situations where if you're in the right place at the right time, you could snag a race win. So look out for that.
Okay.
Danny Rick actually got he got his last win in a McLaren at Monza, and Zach Brown then got the Monza outline tattooed with the date of that race win. It was a crazy race. No one expected McLaren to win a race that season, and then Danny Rick's gone and won that race. So it was like a wild one. And then the third one, high speed crashes. We always have very big. Whenever we have a crash at Monza, it's usually a very big crash, or we have like near misses. Fernando versus Sebastian Vettel, I think it was 2012 or 2013. Around the outside of turn 3, I want to say, Seb squeezed him like real tight to the exit, and then he's like on the grass, like almost spinning out of control, and he's come on the radio. It was like a whole thing. Fernando's come on the radio and it's just like kicking off. So yeah, few high speed crashes. One of them we will have a look at in a minute, but they're my top 3 things to look out for. You've listed something here.
Have I?
Yeah, in yellow.
I have. But I feel like we sort of already touched on it. The thing I was interested in this weekend is that there are some random drivers, like Logan Sargent's not driving.
Yeah.
So that's a new driver to look out for. And then I think I've got this wrong. I don't think this is worth adding in.
Okay.
Because I thought Kimi Antonelli was racing this weekend for Mercedes, but no, it's just he's driving in a free practice.
Yeah. So I don't know how many times per season that they try and get a junior driver in, but usually it'll get like Ollie Behrman's done that. He's done a few in the Haas, like over last season and this season, like free practice 1 sessions. We usually see it happen quite often. I think the big deal here is that the Mercedes seat still isn't confirmed. And they're now putting Kimi in, so people are starting to speculate and say, "Oh, the Kimi news is coming soon." Okay. So that's why it's a big deal on social media.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez, people love a bit of speculation.
Oh mate, honestly. It's the one thing I hate about Formula One is that the amount of times people will send me an article. I got shown a photo of a black Ferrari. Because have you seen that they've got like the black overalls and t-shirts and stuff this weekend? They've shown me a black Ferrari on track and they're like, this is what they're racing in this weekend. I'm like, they're not going to fucking race Monza in a black Ferrari. It's the home Grand Prix. Yeah. They will not be in that. Yeah. And they're like, no, look, it's a photo on track. I'm like, it's fake.
Yes.
Like, don't fucking believe it. And then people like the moment Ferrari say they're going with a black t-shirt and overalls, the world just erupts and I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah, the way I kind of like to read news is like wait until it's been written, I guess, and then read it rather than just sort of trying to guess.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, well.
I literally will sit on, I ignore news channels. I just sit on the actual social media channels of the teams or drivers. Like the Lewis news, like Sky Sports said that as if it was fact. And then nobody, like Ferrari and Lewis didn't confirm it for like 3 days. I'm just like, I'm not believing this until I've heard it from the horse's mouth. Like I need them to tell me, then I'll believe it. Oh, the
Carlos Sainz going to Williams on the other hand, though.
Oh,
you thought that was fact about 9 months ago.
But the thing is with that one is like, I've told you before and like people still don't believe me. He genuinely sent me a text.
Shut up.
And he was like, Disco, I'm going to Williams. Like you can put your mind at ease. I'm going there. So I didn't need to speculate. It was fact because I knew.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. The horse's mouth just went straight to Disco.
Yeah. Straight to Disc. Yeah. Me and Carlos were like this. We're genuinely brothers.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a look at my top 3 moments of the Monza Grand Prix, like its history. I'm just going to start by saying I'm really sorry if you don't agree with this list. It's very fucking difficult to pick top 3 when there has been so many moments. Like Monza is such an iconic track. There's been so much good shit. So I just had to pick my favorites.
Okay.
So coming in at number 3 was Mika Hakkinen driving in the McLaren in 1999 and has spun out of the lead of the race.
Oh, and that's Hakkinen spinning! Hakkinen, the race leader! He's out of the race! He's out of the race! Mika Hakkinen retires on lap 30 and Heinz-Harald Frentzen leads, and this could blow the World Championship wide open. And Mika Hakkinen, after the misery of Belgium, is consumed with rage. It's almost like he didn't try to start again. I wonder if the engine was already dead. Oh, he's crying his eyes out in the pits, in amongst the trees. Hakkinen absolutely distraught.
Crikey.
Yeah.
What's the context there? Why is that such an emotional crash?
Well, this is the thing is that Mika Hakkinen he's from Finland and he's a very like standard Finnish driver, just like Valtteri Bottas, like very like plain-faced, doesn't really show much emotion and is just straight to the point. Like you ask him an interviewer would ask him a question and he'd just give one-word answers. So to see this kind of emotion from Mika Hakkinen is unreal. Like you don't ever see him throwing the gloves on the ground or crying in the bush. Like that's so crazy for him. But it was because the season was getting really heated. I think it was between him and Michael, and it was getting like real tight. And he was like really pushing hard. He had a fast car, but he didn't have the fastest car. Ferrari won the championship this year. That's how good the Ferrari was. So every race was like every race, every point, every position was so critical at this point. And I think the week before or a few weeks before in Belgium at Spa, he'd either finished out the points or he DNF'd or something. So he got no points then. So for this to happen again, it was like, all of a sudden, the championship lead he had was just like real tight. Mm-hmm. He did end up going on to win the World Championship that year. Mm. So like, yeah, he was very much, his emotions were...
Right. And do you know, like, did he ever come out and say what was going on with the car? Because like, I mean... Not that I've done a great deal of F1 driving, but that looked like a crash he could have just sort of chucked a Yui and continued on his way, you know?
Yeah. Nowadays, they've got anti-stall systems and they've got like the 2 clutches on the thing. So the moment you feel a spin like that, you can probably catch it. You can probably save it before the engine's going to stall. Back in them days, especially because there wasn't as much computerization on the engines. So it was like I think that was the V10 era. Because it was mainly mechanical, the moment you would get that kind of sideways and the tires would start to rotate the other way, the engine would then go into a stall, and catching that stall was very difficult back then, just because the way the engines were set up, the way the clutch was set up. So he'd most likely, I think Martin said it on the commentary, he most likely stalled before he came to a stop. Because when you see him stop, he takes his wheel off straight away. Like, there's no hesitation. So I think he already knew
But
stalled.
if I'm driving a normal car and I stall, I can just start the ignition again.
Not back then. You can barely do it now. Have you not seen the big rods that they have to shove up the car's arse to like start it? The like starter rod thing. You've not seen this?
No. To clarify, we're talking about F1 cars only.
F1 cars
I've
only, yeah.
definitely restarted a car after stalling.
Yeah, you don't have a rod for your Honda.
No, the Honda HR-V does not have a rod up its ass.
Holy shit. That is so funny. So these are the rods that you would like pop into the butt of a car, of an F1 car, and it would start the car. So that like I don't really know what it does. It like turns something and then that like starts the engine.
Wow.
Yeah. So especially back then, you couldn't just like get in and press a button and it's on. Like there was not a thing.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So if you stalled back in the day, you're out the race. Like you can't catch it.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. So we have electronic systems now that called anti-stall, so that it will catch it for you, or it will do its best as best it can to restart the engine if it does go into a stall mode.
Holy heck.
Yeah. And this is like they still have them you'll still see them in the not like when they're pitting, but you know when they're like, especially in free practice sessions, when they're just sat in the garage and they're about to go out, you'll see a guy come out with this.
Wow.
Because I think it's like the safest way to start the cars or whatever. I don't really know, but yeah.
Wow. I can't believe you've never told me that. That is brand new information.
Yeah, there you go. I think we know what our social cutdown is for this week.
Yeah. I just really thought there'd be like chuck the keys in the ignition sort of situation. I don't know why I thought that.
Yeah.
That's so bizarre.
Because you know when you see like Max Orlando winning a race, they get out, what the last thing they do is they get the keys out of the ignition and they just pop them in the pocket, don't they? Holy shit, that is good gear. Go Skin. My second thing on the list is Max Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton in 2021. The title championship battle, we spoke about this many times, it was getting heated, and this happened in Monza.
Hamilton comes out onto the racetrack now, and is he going to be ahead of Lando Norris? That's the big key. No, he's not. And there's Max Verstappen right behind Hamilton into the first chicane. Once again, it's wheel to wheel. Hamilton and Verstappen, and this time Verstappen and Hamilton have crashed out, and they are both out. The two championship protagonists have taken each other out of the Italian Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Crikey.
Can I just ask, this is the first time you've seen this clip, yeah?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay. What do you reckon?
Max is parked on Lewis's car.
Mm-hmm. But like, whose fault do you think that is?
I would have thought Max's. It'd be pretty hard to drive underneath someone's car.
Yeah. Yeah, it would. It would. You also see how like Max doesn't have any space on the track.
I do see that now that you mention it.
It's wheel to wheel. Hamilton and Verstappen.
This is still like people still argue about this.
Really?
This crash today. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like 3 or 4 years later, like people are still arguing about this. At this point in the season, I was like, Max got a lot of penalties, Lewis got a lot of penalties, and I was very much like, Max is getting penalized heavier than Lewis is. And like the whole like British bias started to come into question. But this one, I sided with Lewis. I think that Max's aggressive driving to put himself around the outside there when Lewis was on fresh, cold tyres, I think was the wrong move. I think if he had just backed off, he clearly had the faster car, he would have passed him like 3 corners later.
Yeah, okay.
But Lewis was also in the wrong by not leaving Max space.
Yeah, okay.
I think it was put down to a racing incident, but yeah, it was certainly like, this is when shit this season really started to get like nasty between them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Put down to a racing incident.
But because there was so many arguments from both sides for how the other person was in the wrong.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But for me, I'm saying like
racing incident.
Yeah, but it's not a fair one. But but for me, I'm blaming Max for it. I think that he and I hate Lewis Hamilton, but like I think he was too aggressive, and yeah, I just don't think he should have been there. But it's a wild one, and that's why it's number 2 on my list.
All right, interesting.
Number 3 on my list, Marcus Ericsson. Now, Marcus Ericsson is a driver from Denmark.
Denmark.
He's from Switzer, Denmark, that new country, yeah.
Yes.
So he's from Denmark, I think. Oh, fuck, I'm going to need to Google it, aren't I? Marcus Ericsson. Swedish. Obviously, I said Swedish. Yeah, that's what I meant. I meant Sweden, obviously. That's why Denmark, if you just arrange the letters and it spells Sweden. That's where I was getting confused. I think it was during a free practice session. His DRS failed. We've spoken about DRS before, why it's so important to have it closed in corners. And I think you asked, like, would it not just make more sense to keep the DRS open at all times because then you'll go faster around the entire track?
Yeah.
This is why you don't do that. His DRS failed and got locked open.
Oh, that's a big crash as well. And that's the Sauber of Marcus Ericsson. Red flagged the session. Session suspended. And Paul, there was absolutely nothing he could do. The car just went on under braking, just stepped out from underneath him.
When you have spectacular ones like that, the energy's dissipated over a long distance with all the bits and pieces flying off as well. It's not the sudden stop. They're the ones that really hurt. So whilst it looks spectacular, as long as nothing comes into the cockpit to get you.
The mechanics are looking at the DRS on Leclerc's car. I think we could be looking at a DRS failure. The rear wing flap has not reattached, has not gone down as it should do as soon as Ericsson touched the brake.
You okay?
So basically what's happened, he's got his DRS open. He's at full speed around Monza. I think he was on a flying lap. The moment he's touched his brakes, the rear of the car has started to grip, and it's then the front of his, the rear of his car has started to grip, but the air that is supposed to hit the downforce flap to then slow it and push the car downwards so that it can brake in a straight line is going through the rear wing. So that's then caused his car to immediately shoot to the left and hit that barrier. We never see crashes there. Like, we might see crashes on the apex of that corner, which is where Lewis and Max crashed, but you never see crashes to the left. And so this was like bizarre. Also fair to say that the Halo probably saved his life. Also fair to say that Halo probably saved Lewis's life.
Yeah,
Max's tire ran over his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a huge crash. It was like, I can't remember how many Gs. It was like 40 Gs or 35 Gs or something. It was a very big one.
Ugh.
And he was, so in his position as well, he would have been aiming for the apex to like his right hand side. So like maybe like 230 on a clock.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So he's like, his eyes are there, and then all of a sudden his car has just shot that way.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't know what to do or think or anything. So it was an unreal crash. And just a very bizarre one. I'm pretty sure they retired Leclerc, because I don't think maybe he raced, but he definitely didn't qualify. But I think they retired Leclerc's car, who was his teammate at the time, for the rest of the session and for the qualifying or something like that, because they weren't sure if it was a issue across both cars.
Right, okay.
So yeah, that is my number one moment, because it was a spectacular crash and because he's okay.
Yes.
Well, that wraps up another lap at the Formula Fools podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we did. And it's now your turn to join the Fools family by connecting with us on social media. It is at Formula_Fools on everything apart from Facebook, which is at Formula Fools.
Well done, Dave. You can also leave us a rating and review. Reviews are just on Apple, I believe.
Yep.
Ratings should be in most places, and they help a great deal. So I would appreciate that. I think we've got one to read, don't we?
We have got one to read. Yeah, this is from Meth Boss Man. So starting well. Great name.
Nice.
He titled it, Guru is now in my vocab. Thanks to Disco. I swear this wasn't biased. I just saw we only had one new review. I mean, we had 200 new reviews. So I chose this one because it just kind of stood out above the rest. A newish F1 fan, it's been great to learn about... And as a newish F1 fan, it's been great to learn about the sport along with Skin. Dave is a great host.
Dave.
Bang.
Wow.
Guru has now made its way into my daily vocab, so probably should remove a star. Bastard. Instantly kicks me in the balls.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Keen for some merch.
Wow.
Skin.
Crikey. Okay.
Cancel the Chocks merch.
Yeah.
Or we keep that, we just put a sticker over it.
Okay.
Fools.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So our total addressable market for merch is one person.
One person.
Let's order one t-shirt.
No, Skin. I'll buy one as well, too.
Okay. All right, sweet.
Okay, he also leaves 5 stars reviews. That's a 5-star review. That's why he said he should probably remove a star. Sorry about changing your vocabulary. And also sorry to all your friends and family and partner and anyone that has to interact with you on a daily basis. Meth Boss Man.
But you just can't win them all.
You can't win them all. Anyway, thank you for joining us at Formula Fools, where every turn is a chance for a good laugh. We'll see you next time.